Mr. Lipsett, welcome to the show. A nice podcast to start our morning.
Well, bro, thank you so much for having me on. I was just saying, you caught me at a great time, morning time, caffeinated. I'm in a really good mood. I've also had some good news last week, so let's kill it. Let's do this.
Yeah, it's been a period of really good news for you moving into Villa Lipsett after all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Effort.
I've looked up like some of the most stressful life events that can happen to somebody, and like there's the usual like divorce, family issues, financial issues. Moving house is apparently one of them, and I get that now. So I've been so disorganized over the past couple of months, which as a big self-improvement junkie like yourself, I hate that feeling. But now I'm all settled in, and things are going great.
Yeah, we were talking about environment before we hit record, and I think that's absolutely huge, isn't it? Like, we should always have like what I would call it minimum viable product. So like, I can work in a coffee shop with my laptop, that's fine. But would it be better with my laptop at a desk with like kind of clutter free with a keyboard and a mouse or whatever else that I need to really function at my optimum? But now that you're like getting this set up in Villa Lipsett, you've got your little office, you've got your cubby. Yeah. I'm excited to see what's coming next.
Yeah, me too. So I'm still just adding bit by bit. We're kind of doing one room at a time in order of necessity. So like bed came first, kitchen. But it was funny when I first moved in, it was just a bed, no Wi-Fi or anything. The Wi-Fi took a while. So I was like, so this is how they did it back in the olden times. It's really stripped it back. But yeah, look, it's one of the coolest experiences and probably one of the proudest things that I've done is basically build my dream home at this stage in my life, out in Marbella, a very sought after location. So I'm super proud. And it's also been a really creative process and something that I've never done, property construction. And so designing a space exactly how you want to make it, it's been super cool. And I'm just beyond grateful to being in the opportunity, being in this place that I could have this opportunity. It's just been crazy.
I love that level of gratitude. And I guess given all the different kind of hedonic highs that you've probably had over the years and at times probably meteoric bumps, it's great that you can kind of sit with this feeling as well, because a lot of my successful guests have spoken to me about like forever chasing more. And I think you said self-improvement junkie like myself. Yeah. Like there's always that demand, but okay, what's next? But the way that you're using your language there in gratitude, I think that's very powerful for people to listen to, that you are able to sit with this moment and be like, well, I've actually achieved something pretty cool here. I should be pleased and happy, not completely content and stagnate, but let's take a moment to be like, yeah, I won.
Exactly. And it's so funny what you mentioned there about, chasing those hedonic hits, chasing those highs. I remember like for ages, I was driving a nice car and it had to get repaired, and I gave it in and I got a replacement car, and it was something like a Golf or something. And I remember being like, because I went from Mercedes to a Golf, and I was like, oh, geez, I hate this Golf. Oh, I can't wait to get my other car back. And then I was like, Rob, snap out of it. What are you saying? The old you would have given anything for a Golf. Like, would have given anything. And so it's like we get to these levels that like we chase the next high, and then we lose our gratuity for things that we used to be grateful for. So I think it's super cool to strip everything back and be like, oh, I'm grateful for the food in my fridge. I'm grateful for the lights on. I'm grateful for the shower. I'm grateful for Wi-Fi. I really was last week, actually, when I didn't have it. And so I think it's just so important to every now and then to just take a step back and see what extremely small things you can be grateful for. It's just a good feeling to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in this age of like relative abundance, not for everyone, of course, but for the vast majority of the population, we're better off than we've ever been. Mm-hmm. When you do strip it back to like, what am I actually happy about? And it for you, it was like, oh, I've got access to Wi-Fi again to help me create and do the things that I love to do. And when I was without it for a little while, and you probably, when you got your Merc back, you were probably more appreciative of it for a couple of weeks. And then, of course, you adapted again. You're like, this is just the car that I drive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you adapt pretty quickly, but it is nice to do those little resets. And so at the moment as well, me and my girlfriend, we're just talking about how, we need to like go through a period of monk mode a little bit and save. We were like eating out too much, traveling too much, and and then trying to pay for the house and the renovation on top of that. And we're like, okay, we need to have a monk mode period. We need to have a grind period. It's like we're not actually appreciating the meals out as much when you do it too regularly. And so at the moment, the two of us were actually going through. It's also why I'm running a 60-day challenge on my app, because I feel a lot of people are like this at this time of the year, that after summer and they're traveling and eating and going to festivals and they're so stimulated. I think September, October, November, just before the holidays and just the end of the year, is a really good time to reset, slow things down, focus on gym, cooking, exercise, your mindset, getting plenty of sleep, and just living a simple life and just resetting everything. So that's what I'm doing right now. And also saves you a ton of money as well. Just, living that gym nutrition training life.
Yeah, of course, Rob. I want to go back. You mentioned the old Rob would have been really grateful for driving a Golf. I want to go back to when I probably first saw your content, and that was you taping an iPhone 5 to the wall in order to film your vlogs. I've been here since the start, Rob. So
you know what?
Let's go there.
You sent me a message, and it stood out so much. And I was like, oh my God, like I saw the top of the line, and it was a reference to like the very, OG days. And I was like, oh my God, I'm 100% doing this podcast. And Joey D also spoke very highly about you as well. So, I saw that sort of name pop up and I was like, let's do it. So appreciate that.
Yeah, appreciate that, Rob. Yeah, having Joe on the podcast was a really cool moment because, like you, I consumed a lot of stuff over the years, and you do build a connection to like online mentors to a level of an extent, like particularly if you're looking to like build up your mindset. And you were two young guys that were speaking like about health, fitness, development, and you weren't really ashamed of it, because there's an element of like, I'm from Glasgow and you're from Ireland. There is an element of like, be careful, like don't get ideas above your station, don't do things that are a little bit different to anyone else, like we don't like that. So you and Joe were definitely figures that were helpful at that stage in my life. So yeah, buzzing to have you, Rob. But yeah, let's go back to when you were first creating that content. What was life like at that time when it came to like sticking the iPhone up on the wall?
Yeah, so that was definitely a very confusing time in my life, because I failed college, I didn't have any jobs, and I really didn't know how the next 5 years would go. Still kind of don't, but I didn't know how, what my next move was or anything. And so I was living in like this shared accommodation with like, a bunch of other people. And yeah, it was a very uncertain and strange time in my life. And I was also like, I was 22 at the time. So like you're just starting out in your 20s. It's a really, really interesting period of your life. And I think it's a good time. I think that's when people start figuring out their passions and they start getting a feel for things. It's still very early days. And if you're listening to this and you're 19, 20, 21, or even over 22, even up to 25, people don't have it figured out. I still don't have it figured out. I'm 30. But so I was 22 at the time and just trying to figure it all out. And I stripped everything back and I just said, what can I talk about forever? What do I love? Okay. And it's still the same. It's still the same. I made like a TikTok reel yesterday, just talking about like 3 excellent habits to get into for fat loss. And like, I just really liked making it. Like I clicked post and I was like, that was sick, And so at the time it was just the exact same. I said, what do I love to do? And that's fitness, training, nutrition. And so I said, I've got none to lose. I'm going to get slagged by my friends. People are going to be like, what does this lad from Dublin think he's doing? Like, does Billy Big Biceps think he's an expert? And I'm like, I've nothing to lose. So I got, the iPhone 5. It was so funny because I was recording it on the good quality camera. And so I would sellotape it to the wall like this. So I couldn't see what I was recording. And sometimes it would run out of memory. So it would be a 15-minute video. And like it would run out of memory after 2 minutes. So I'd be shouting at the wall in my house at nothing. But we figured it out. We got a tripod and we went from there. But I'll never actually forget the day I got a Canon G7X. It was huge. I was working like part-time in retail at the moment, a few different jobs actually. And I had like I think I had like 400, 500 euro in my bank account. And whatever, just enough to get that camera. And I'll never forget, I think so fondly of the G7X. Like that G7X, that 300, 400 euro investment went on to build a 7-figure fitness business. So that's the only investment I had. That's it.
That's a great ROI.
Yeah,
big
that
return
is a good
investment.
ROI. Like Canon, if you're watching this, come on, yeah, hit me up. But that's it, you know. And so that was the turning point in my life, and I'll never forget those times. And me and Joe actually we were in Australia. I think this was it, just before, you know, all the lockdowns and everything. It was in like 2019. We were in Australia in Noosa, and we were watching all our own videos. And we were like, the really old ones, like the ones of us together, and even ones of just him, ones of just me. And we were just smiling. And we were like, some people are like, oh, I cringe at my old videos. We're like, that is so cool that we have those moments in time captured. And just as a little side note, if anyone's thinking of starting YouTube or starting a content creation journey, do it even if no one's watching. Those videos are the most precious things to me. While being able to zoom back into that time of my life and I'm just getting started, they're so valuable to me. If they ever got deleted, I'd honestly cry, you know. And so me and Joe were looking back at them recently and just kind of thinking fondly of that time.
That's incredible. And I know that period when you were starting to create and you were going between jobs was quite difficult from a family perspective in terms of your living situation as well. So like, even when you were creating, you had the inertia of maybe people around you saying, oh, I don't think you should be creating stuff. You're probably in the group chats or getting rude messages on Facebook or Instagram, whatever it was at that point in time.
Yeah.
But equally, you also had to like balance when you were able to record. I remember you saying it was such a battle to try and be consistent at that point too.
Yes. So the situation, to explain it, basically, my family, we went through a lot of financial issues, and that they pretty much sell the house, or they had to rent out every room in the property. So my sisters all moved away, parents separated. It was just me left in this house, and it was like a nice house that I grew up in. And then all of a sudden, I see it like turned into like every room got a sink and a bathroom put into it. So it was more or less made into like a motel. I don't know, you know. And then it was cheap price per night, so get like a rough crowd as well. So, you know, that sucked. And then I was just there on my own. Like, I was like, oh, where's everybody? Where's my family? And then trying to make all these cooking videos, training tutorials, everything. And there people just walk in, they'd be like, hey, I don't want to be in your fucking video, stop recording. And so I would always have to like do the video so quickly before someone walked in. And like now, you know, that's why I'm so grateful to just even have an office space. It's crazy. So yeah, that was the situation growing up. And yeah, it was always pretty stressful. I got laptop stolen out of my room, which again, not ideal when you're trying to start an online business. So I remember actually one of the first like goals of mine back then was to make enough per month to be able to just move out on my own. And I think that experience of living with people, and I hated it so much, it's turned me still to this day into such an introvert. So I moved out on my own, and I enjoyed it so much that when I started to do even better, I moved into a 2-bed apartment, and like it was nice big one. This was like when things are starting to go well. People were like, you don't need a 2-bed apartment. Like, why don't you get a roommate? And I'm like, never again. I'm like, never again.
They'll touch my stuff. They'll interrupt my videos.
Yeah, it's worth paying double the rent just to not have a roommate. So that turned me into an introvert and made me value my own space so much.
I think it helps people understanding that it wasn't necessarily easy for you, regardless of how positive you seem throughout the period. And I've told you before, you come across as a very sincerely positive person as well. And I know people that have met you and said, Rob is exactly as you would expect. And although I've not gone down the full kind of fitness entrepreneur path, when I've done maybe shoots with like a couple of different brands, I've met people and been like, oh, you're nothing like you are in your stories. And that's a horrible thing to say to people, isn't it? Or to think about people. But you bring such an energy that's like consistent. But if you think about that period of your life, a lot of people would have felt the pressure then and probably not put out such a positive outlook. But did you always have like a very resilient, strong mindset at that stage?
No. So I actually used to be really hard on myself, and this was bred into me in school because I was extremely poor academically. Okay. I mean, bottom results of the year, you know, ranked 80 lads in my year. Rob Lipsett's results, they're number 79, 80. Okay. That's where they are. So I was like, oh God, you know, I'm screwed. I'm not going to get into college. I'm a failure. Oh, I'm going to work a job I hate when I'm older. And that's why I like to preach so often that there's just so many different routes. Like now, you know, I'm doing one of the best out of my year group, and things have gone great. But at the time, I thought I was doomed. And so my default would actually be really negative. And this sounds so basic and so like all the academics or all the intellects are going to laugh at me, all the book nerds. I read the book The Secret, okay, which is there's the standard entry level self-development stuff, and it just said I don't believe in like words become things. Well, they kind of do, but it's just taught me on how just the power of positive thinking and how that your thoughts, you're with them all day and they do manifest. And, some people say it's wishy-washy and all this, but I think it's just common sense. If you constantly have bad thoughts in your mind all day, you're going around, you're saying negative shit, that's particularly bad because once you're saying it, it's actually physical. It's
you speak it into existence. Yeah, I agree.
Speaking to yourself poorly, that's the worst thing you can do. Speak to yourself like you're someone you love. Like, and even something I do as well, I look in the mirror and I talk to myself. I'm like, come on, let's go. Like a madman, like Linda living with me. She was like, it's like living with Patrick Bateman or, the Jordan Belfort, crazy. But so I used to have a really negative mindset. I read that book. I started reading more self-development books. I started watching tons of videos on YouTube. I was raised by YouTube. Like YouTube made me into the person I am today. I'd be driving to the gym. I'd be listening to self-development podcasts on improving your mind, about positivity, everything. I would just brainwash myself into just thinking, looking at the glass half full. What happened? My life improved 100-fold, just by, instead of being a complainer and always, oh God, oh this, just changing that default. Just be like, whatever, it's all good. Hey, it's fine. Let's get it done. And funny enough, once I started just being like that, the people that everyone want to be around you. Everyone's like, I don't want to be around some complainer. And then so I started getting loads of business opportunities. People want me to speak at events. People want me to, help them with their training and nutrition and everything. So once that happened, once I just changed my default mindset, the world opened its arms to me.
I love that, Rob. And I think when it comes to maybe people speaking disparagingly about things like The Secret, that's absolutely fine. But because it was a book that you decided to action relentlessly, regardless of how high quality the information was, you were probably going to see some benefits. Whereas you see people consume, but take no action. And that's absolutely fine. You could read the greatest minds, like all of their work in a year. But if you don't action a single chapter or a single page, then you're going to be in the same position. Whereas you read a book, which, yes, it has its critics, but fundamentally, it made you a more positive person, which fundamentally had a positive results. So that for me has a lot of value because again, you see it, I don't know if you're on LinkedIn, Rob, but in my corporate job, I'll see a lot of it, like people bragging about the number of books they've read. But I'm like, you're the same person you were before you read that book. Like you haven't done anything with it.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's like, there's all these like people that they refer to themselves as an intellect and are like, oh, I do all this. And then you'll get this dumbass like me who executes. And they're like, you just got beat by this dumbass. So there's just something to be said about that. You can read all and have your philosophies on everything and your take on everything. You just got to execute. Doesn't even matter.
Yeah, agreed. You were speaking about monk mode for you and Linda as well, and I've seen that as a bit of a common theme amongst my guests as well. You know Gary McGowan really well, and he is in monk mode right now. Like he works so hard, it's incredible, and he's very much living through that period. And then there's other guests that have kind of done that period and now are reaping the fruits of their labor, so to speak. But what was that initial building phase like for you? Like, I know you're going to go into monk mode just now, but what was it like back in the day when you're building things?
Oh, so I never went, I don't think I could ever go into that mode again, right? So right now I'm doing like a little 2-3 month thing where I'll, just focus down, go monk mode, work extra hard, put in the hours. I did that for 3 years. I did 3-year monk mode, okay? And so you can go back to my channel, okay? So 2014, okay, this is when I decided I'm working in the fitness industry. There's a video of me saying, I'm going to be one of the biggest names in fitness, okay? This is when I had no followers, nothing, no clients, no audience, no sponsors, nothing, no business, no companies, it's nada. So I'm saying this, I'm putting this out there into the world. And for 2014, 15, 16, there was no trips to the Maldives. There was no Nobu. There was no fancy dinner. I barely drank. I think in those 3 years, I would drink 4 or 5 times a year. if even. So not way less than once a month. And so that was like extreme monk mode. And all I cared about was, how do I grow in the fitness industry? How do I further my career in the fitness industry? And all that footage is there. Like there's me like flying to the LA Fit Expo on my own in the hope to meet some people from Alpha Elite and get a sponsorship, which I did, of course, because I literally ran into the gym, shook all their hands, network. Who the fuck's this Irish kid who flew to LA, which is on his own, to network? All I cared about was growing in the fitness industry. And they're three of the most important years of my life. And they've now allowed me to lay the groundwork, build the connections and the network that I have, and to grow. And now I can relax a little bit. Now I can, take it easy. Still do the monk mode now and then. But those 3 years were so important. And I actually look back on them so fondly. I think they're actually 3 of the happiest years of my life in a way.
There's a lot to be said for the purpose of those years, Rob, in terms of the happiness and feedback look it would have given you, because you were seeing that they were building. And I know you're interested in your investments, and we'll definitely get onto that as the pod goes. But for me, like those years where your accumulation phase, and then they built the foundations for you to then compound and benefit from, and a big investment trade is compound interest. But you're certainly getting the compound interest from those 3 years of hard work. And I love that you bring up that you flew to the LA Fit Expo and networked with Guzman and Max Tuning, maybe with you being there too.
Exactly. Yeah, he was there. I was with him last week or two in Seville, and these guys are my best friends now. So it's crazy. Not work until your idols become your rivals. Work until your idols become your bros. That's the real quote.
Yeah. You took a big risk, I suppose, doing that. But equally, we were saying that you were maybe I think you're probably the only Irish voice that I saw at that period in time that was creating content. So there's a difficulty from that perspective, but there's also a novelty benefit as well, because the Americans wouldn't have seen somebody Irish creating content before. So while it was difficult at home, maybe away it was a bit of a competitive advantage for you to be different.
100%. And even Christian had said this to me. He was like, where are all these sales coming from Ireland? And so I was like, hey, it's me. And so that reflected very well on me within the company. And it also did help at home, because I have the largest fitness YouTube channel in Ireland. I'm not saying that is such a big flex. I win because no one else showed up to the race. Which is great. It when you're kind of don't have, you do something that you don't have much people to compete against, you'll rise to the top easily. And I saw that just basically every fitness YouTuber that I followed, they're all just like from the UK and America. And I said, hey, I would like to see some Irish guy going to Lidl and Aldi and going down to Raw Gym and walk around Grafton Street and going to all these Irish places. So I picked up the camera, took the slagging, and it paid off. And oftentimes it's like, if people are making fun of you, people are jealous, you're on the right track.
That's true. Like, do you have tall poppy syndrome in Ireland?
So I think I know what that means. Explain it to me.
Yeah, so I was talking to Johnny Starr recently. So it's actually an Australian and quite a UK phrase as well. Do you remember Johnny Starr at all? He was on. He was one of the first.
Yeah, I knew he was in that Z's aesthetic era. Yeah, it's John Gorman is his name. Isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So,
man, I know everything about the fitness industry. Like Z's.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, Z's, that was like my era. That started me off, like before all YouTube and everything. So yeah, I know him well. Yeah, definitely.
I'm the same. So I've interviewed John, and one of the reasons I get on really well with him is because he's like me. He kind of builds a physique while doing the kind of corporate sales career as well. So I kind of connected really tightly with him through that. And he was talking about tall poppy syndrome in Australia, and I find it definitely in Scotland as well. And I imagine it's probably similar in Ireland. We're not massively different people in that way.
Scottish people are pretty much Irish.
There's a big correlation, isn't there? And the tall poppy is the poppy in the field that gets cut down to get to the level of all the others, because in order for them to like harvest the poppies, they need to cut the tall ones down as well.
Yeah.
And Johnny was finding that when he got his first sponsorship with Gymshark, Ben and Lewis were going to fly him over to Body Power, but he had unfortunately used gear in the past and done a natural show like 2 years afterwards, and and all the people in Australia had that on him, and they basically just abused him off social media because of that. Now, it was a stupid mistake, and we would both like agree that that's not the right thing to do, but he didn't deal with it well at all, and he ended up not going to the Body Power Expo, which is the kind of famous one where you see all the photos of like,
it was like the one with Jeff Seed, Matt Ogus, Alon Gabe, like the
Lex
one
Griffin,
that went super viral.
Yeah, he didn't go to that, and he's like framed it now, and that was one of the most interesting things that I talked about with him. Like, he's framed it now that mentally he can like handle that he didn't go and like what happened. But basically, because so many people in Australia saw him rising, they were like determined to cut him down, and now they managed to find a reason to do it. But probably over the years, they probably tried to cut you down as well, Rob, because they've been like, oh, why is he doing better than us, or why is he doing things differently? I don't like that. And it's very challenging when that starts to happen. But to ride through that phase, you get to a point where people almost like they wouldn't even try and bring you down now. They just kind of like chum up to you.
Yeah, exactly. So there's been many situations, rumors spread about me, like really serious, hurtful rumors. So much that completely. Ireland especially Dublin, is an extremely small place. Everyone knows everyone. I can't. You'll never go anywhere like it. You'd have to be from there to understand. If there's any Irish listeners right now, you'll get what I'm talking about. So there's been so many times people are trying to literally defame me. Like, I could have actually taken cases out on some people if I wanted to. So many, but I've learned the best way is to just keep on going, not let it get to you, and eventually everyone just fecks off. When they see you don't get a reaction, that's when they'll just, whatever, I'm wasting my time here. So they obviously got a reaction out of Johnny. You know, he didn't go. And that was obviously, I would have definitely just gone, and, you know, and that's one thing that I'm glad I've always done, is that I'm a very relentless person. I'll, just wake up, someone doing this, well, I'm going about my day. Okay. Anytime anyone tries to do anything like that, I'll just zone in and keep going, and the problem goes away. And that's it. So yeah, that's the only thing. You got to ignore it and just keep trucking, really.
And you probably see people now who maybe took shots at you back in the day before you were in a position of like greater influence now, and we can use the term influencer if we like. Yeah. But now that you're in a position of like relative power and status, you're much more likely to have them come to you like asking for favors or support. Yeah. Whereas when you were on your way up, they would all too happily have tried to sabotage you getting to that position where you can actually help others, which is a crazy thought, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. There's actually, I don't name names. There's like one guy in particular, and I remember he'll be like, oh, you'll be back, looking for jobs soon, after this YouTube thing flops, after the fitness things. And then like, he's like, I get a message from him like 8 years later. He's like, my brother just opened up a cafe. Would you mind giving it a share? And I was just like, no, so it's like, first they'll make fun of you and all this, and then they'll ask for favors, exactly what you said. And if there's a lesson there, just be nice to everyone. Everyone's just on their journey. Just put people up. It costs you nothing, and it actually makes you look better. Like, I think there's nothing more embarrassing. I think it's truly embarrassing talking shit about someone else. You're essentially lowering yourself. You're basically saying like, hey, I am lower than you, and I need to talk shit to get your attention, to get back up at you. I think it's just such an embarrassing thing, like bitching about people in a group. Oh, when I see someone do that, it's cringeworthy. So if there's a little lesson here, it's talk highly of people, and it always reflects well on yourself. Like, if you've ever been in a group setting and there's someone yakking away, talking about everyone's business, does it ever look good? No. If there's someone in a group talking about inspiring things, goals, complimenting people, putting other people up, it actually raises their status. It shows they're a secure person and shows they're on the right path as well. So never talk down. And if you are going to talk down someone, don't do it in a public setting. It'll just ruin your image.
That secure word was vital, isn't it? Because you're not threatened by them overtaking you or making you feel less of yourself. So by you being able to be positive about somebody else, and that's like massively rewarding. I shared with you when we were getting organized for this, I was actually recently accused of like toxic positivity with my posts on LinkedIn about my enthusiasm for my corporate career. Like, I had a recent promotion, and I talk about like the kind of stuff that I do. And I just find that quite challenging, because I wouldn't share something that I didn't truly believe in terms of like feeling positive about something. Like,
Yeah.
and like I know there's like brand deals and stuff like that where you could maybe fall into that camp if you didn't have the integrity that you have. But how have you dealt with people maybe accusing you of being toxically positive, Rob? Because you do come across as like relentless. He was one of the terms you use. Just
Yeah.
a happy, content guy.
Yeah. So that's what I've seen before. And like it showed like, don't say this, say this. This is toxic positivity. And I'm like, are we really complaining about being positive now? I'm like, are we trying to cancel positivity? I'm like, no. Okay, all right. You want to cancel a movie, a certain show, you want to cancel somebody. All right, okay, that's fine. You're trying to cancel someone being like, hey, I'm having a great day, or you should have a good day. Turn that frown upside down. I'm like, oh God, people are just looking for things to do. People are just bored. What's the alternative? Have a cry, tell people we're doomed, tell people, oh no, you should complain more. I never got that one. I also don't think toxic masculinity is one to complain about either. I love, preaching masculinity, tell people to man up, become their true self. I love all that. So even the word like toxic is getting overused, toxic positivity, toxic masculinity. People complain about nothing. People looking for something to talk about.
Yeah, toxic diet culture. There's lots of terms thrown around, and I think it typically associates with terms that make people who are maybe not happy with their rat feel happier. So if they can tear down a concept like positivity, like masculinity, like I don't know, health and fitness,
Yeah.
or it makes them feel better about themselves because it tries to bring you down to the level of like suffering and feeling that they're maybe going through. And I'd
I'll
much
tell
rather
you
they
this,
dealt with
right?
that.
It's a quick one, right? Just before, because you mentioned toxic diet positivity or something, right? Did you see when Adele like got herself healthy, lost like tons of weight, put in work, and she's kept it off as well. She looks happier than ever, looks great, and all her fans turned on her. Like everyone was killing her everyone was slating her. They're like, you were one of us. Oh, you improved yourself. I couldn't believe that as a trainer, as someone who loves health and fitness. This is how I saw it. I saw someone, this is the best example of it. I've never seen anything like it. I saw someone improve their physique, improve their life, and sustain those healthy things. And you're getting news articles written about them, saying taking a negative from the situation. I couldn't believe it. So that is just a prime example of people taking something that's perfectly fine, something that should be applauded, but it makes them feel uncomfortable. And they go, all right, I'm going to put the toxic label on this.
It's a brilliant example, Rob. And I actually spoke about that very same example with Paul Moore. And he was saying that a lot of it comes down to like evolutionary tribes that we would attach to. So the people that were overweight felt that Adele was part of their tribe and was demonstrating that people within their tribe could have like really high levels of success and skill. Now, that was still the case. Even though she lost the weight, she could still demonstrate that, yes, as an overweight person, you can be a great singer. But now that she's healthier and better, like in terms of like her like longevity potentially, she might create more music that you enjoy because she's going to last longer and be able more fit on
Exactly.
stage and
Her
stuff.
energy, everything. Go on, Adele. Seriously, I think she leveled up. She's killing it. Congrats to her. But I can't believe that people actually found something to complain about there. It just really shows you that people can find a problem with anything.
Yeah, absolutely. The masculinity piece is interesting too, because I think when you look at some of the teachings of Jordan Peterson, when he's speaking about being a monster, he's encouraging men to realize that they have great levels of dark potential, and that us as men, by controlling our masculinity and channeling it in the right spaces, we're being good people rather than nice people. And it's very interesting that people would say, oh, masculinity is overall bad, but you just have bad actors in every element of life that could use any philosophy or ideology or any form of like behavior to justify like negative acts. So I find it hilarious that us gym bros are able to speak about these fairly high level concepts and just be like, oh well, we're just living like good virtuous lives and controlling the fact that yes, we are men and we are powerful, but we're aligning it in ways that maybe try and bring others with us on a positive journey.
Yeah, it's so funny. that you mentioned that. I actually think guys that like just go to the gym, they look after themselves, they're actually some of the most level-headed thinkers in the whole world. Like there's so much funny, like there's like a stoic meme page I follow, and you know the guy with blonde hair who looks to the side, that meme, you know, he just talks about how like he just wants to live off the land, lift weights and be happy. That's us. But it's so funny, you know, again, hating on masculinity. Like, oh my God, imagine you just turned it around and said hating on femininity. Oh, I think it's crazy. Like, you know, if you're a man, you like feeling masculine, have at it. There you go.
Undoubtedly. And switching to a kind of more business perspective, Rob, you've always had service-based businesses with your coaching, your apps, and supporting people with their health and their fitness, but you pivoted towards a product-based business with FuelCakes. What was the driver behind that?
So I just wanted to try something new, and I saw my friends such as Max with Sarah Strips. He said, what do my YouTube channel like? They like Sarah Candy. I'm going to make that product. Christian with 3D, for example, another physical product. What do my channel like? They like White Monsters. I drink them every day. I'm going to give them a replacement. I'm going to give them a better product. I clicked into my YouTube studio. Most viewed videos, what's the highest click-through rate, what's the most shared, what's the highest retention? The protein pancake videos, okay? And so oftentimes an audience first approach is what you want to do. So brands, they'll start the brand, they'll start a product, and then they'll be like, okay, anyone want it? Okay, I have no customers. Great. Brand doesn't make it past the first month, okay? It never turns over profit. Okay, so if what you need to do is you want to build that community first, okay? Provide that value first. And then you say, okay, what do my audience want? And then you've got customers immediately. So after 5 days, the investment was returned. We sold out of stock. And there you go. It was a profitable business within 5 days because I built the community first. I said, I went into the analytics. What did the community like? I went into the comments. What do they like? I make protein pancakes in so many videos. It's a thing. And then so that hit it off. So oftentimes when people are trying to come up with a product or they're trying to come up with a business, another great way is so when they're trying to come up with a product or business, go, what has someone asked you to help them out with recently? Like, so if you're like a technology guy, like, hey, can you help me install the Wi-Fi? Or like, oh, hey, can you cut my hair? You know, or hey, can you give me a gym or a workout plan? Well, hey, a lot of people are asking me for this. Okay, so that's probably a route I should go. So that's basically where it came from. It came from my friends. You know, it came from my friends seeing what products their channel liked, and it came from myself just wanting to do it too and try something new. But with that said, I always think service-based companies are the king. You know, that's still my main source of income, and you know, by far, like it's pure profit. There's no risk to starting up whatsoever. And you don't have to store it. You don't have to stock it anywhere. It's online. You don't even need a shop front, a physical shop front. I still think service-based businesses are the one.
Yeah, it's diversity though, Rob, wasn't it? And in terms of making sure that you've got more bases covered, and I think with your influences that are around you in your own business mind, that's a very it's very mature perspective to like look at the longevity of you being in the industry, because things change, don't they? Like we watch YouTube just now, but who's to say in 15 years time YouTube's still there? It seems like it's too big to fail, but we say that about the banks just now and we just don't know that, do we?
Yes, exactly. And yeah, so just yesterday I got, and this was my first time announced that I got a massive figure to invest who's a huge name in the food and drinks industry. You won't believe it. Like I can't name the brand that he built, but it's a brand that, you know, it's in every shop, and he's came on board. So he's shown me the way. We're partnering up. So it's going to be huge. Like I can't believe that. And that's just yesterday. So that's why I'm in a really good mood. And so, yeah, anyways, a bit more on that. It was being manufactured in the UK. As I started when I was in London, and the manufacturer was too expensive. So I said, if I'm ever going to really scale this and get this big, I need to make it accessible to everyone, and I need to make it so there's a certain like price point when you have it in supermarkets that it can't be ridiculously expensive. Like you're going into Tesco, not Louis V, you know, you're going in Sainsbury's, not Whole Foods or something. So I had to bring the price point down a lot while also keeping the quality that the current customers are used to. So the past 6 months, it's been out of stock, which sucks for me. I hate not having it to promote. I hate that. But sometimes you have to take a step back to make things better. So making the logistics better. Brexit was a nightmare. A manufacturer in Ireland, better packaging as well. It's actually going to be in pouches instead of the boxes. The boxes look cool, but they got destroyed sometimes on delivery. And just new flavors and products. Actual, not just pancake mixes.
Not just pancakes.
There's a few different products coming. Yeah, fuel shakes, fuel bars, fuel syrups. There's a lot to go. Whispering.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
so it's going to be very exciting. So I took the last 6 months to really just hone in on that because I just saw that it could be a killer brand. And there's really not many healthy pancake companies out there that are focusing just on that as a company. Like, yeah, My Protein do a mix, Bulk do a mix. You know, every brand does, but I can only really think of like 1 or 2 really like quality, high protein, healthy mixes out in the market. And they're actually American. They're not even available in Europe. So I think it's kind of there for the taking, to be honest.
Absolutely. And I think one of the most interesting things within that there, Rob, is that you've got this investor coming on board, but they've come on board after you've had like proof of concept. A lot of the time you see people raising capital way before when it's just an idea, whereas you had like 18 months of like operating, you've had your kind of 6-month pause, you've got your investor in now, and then it's going to kick on. And that's very similar to a lot of the stuff that you've done throughout your life in terms of the YouTube channel, which should kind of continue to level up in terms of your game plan, your apps, your coaching. You had proof of concept before it ever scaled to like incredible heights. And it's kind of a reminder for people to be like, well, it's not going to go from 0 to 100 overnight. Like you kind of, maybe with FuelCakes, you went from 0 to 50, and this is going to take you 50 to 100.
Yeah, well, it went to 0 to 50, then it sold out, not there for 6 months, 0 to 50 to 30, and now to 100, you know, God, the graph is going to look like this. It's going to look like the S&P 500 at the moment. But yeah, there's going to be, you know, huge dips and pigs and troughs, whatever it's called. There's going to be huge dips and setbacks, but as long as the net total, and like people really need to broaden their horizons when they're starting a business or even starting anything, they need to have more of a 10-year view on things. It was actually Alex Hormozy said, the longer this view is, the better. You know, like if you can broaden your horizons from 10 years to 20 years to a lifetime, that's how you're going to win. You know, if you be patient in that way and you look at the super zoomed out picture, kind of like when you're looking at Bitcoin, again, you look at it super zoomed out and it's astronomical. If you looked at this year, terrible. But if the more people need to zoom out and have a bigger time frame on how long it takes to do something significant.
Yeah, you're well into your property, Rob, but you mentioned Bitcoin. Are you still very, very bullish?
Yeah. So I haven't touched it. You won't believe me. I took a good bit out when it hit like 62. So here's my. I have the text to prove it. I got into crypto when I had just so much troubles with my Irish banks and just, you know, moving around and everything. So just, you know, AIB is a very old fashioned bank, and like you still have a card reader to like make an international payment, like a little plastic thing. Anyways, so I got into that. I got into cryptocurrency because of that. And the first one I ever bought was Swipe SXP. It was like an altcoin, very altcoin. And then I bought 2K into that. Then that mooned whatever, that went to 10K. And then so I took all that out. I put the 10K into Bitcoin very early, I think maybe when it was about 10K. So this is at the start of 2020, really. And I've just kind of always kept it in till then, taken profits a few times, but I really leave the most of it in. But yeah, I'm very long-term on that. I just think cryptocurrency in general, after just a amount of crap of being through with banks and traveling around, that I just think it's an easier form of payment and easier way to manage things.
It's interesting you raise international payment. That's one of the reasons I really like XRP Ripple. It's going to hopefully make that much more seamless. It's going through a lawsuit with the SEC just now, which has kind of tanked it down. But I'm very bullish. I've been accumulating.
Nice. So I have a good bit. That would probably be my second. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and yeah, probably actually XRP would probably be my third biggest holding.
Yeah, I think a lot of us gym bros like XRP. I don't know why. We've just been attracted to it because
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
kind of...
Yeah. But so to go back to my extremely simple investment, not financial advice for any listen. This is just what I do, okay? Right? I keep dollar cost average. Keep putting some in every week. And then when the words ATH appear on Twitter, take some out. That means you can't lose. Like you don't, it's never been higher. So I'm like, when people are like, oh, leave it in, it's going to go higher. I'm like, no, like it's never been higher. Like just take it out and you can't have lost. So that's my no lose approach to cryptocurrency. Just hold until the next all-time high. So you have to have just like, it doesn't matter if it's 5 years, I'll hold until those words ATH appear on my Twitter feed constantly. I'll just leave it there. And then the other kind of investments would be stocks, really just the S&P 500 and Tesla. I'm more into crypto than stocks, even though I think stocks are probably a bit safer. And then now, I guess real estate, as of recently.
Yeah, I was going to say that's going to be like the kind of bricks and the mortar, the kind of thing that you can touch. Whereas obviously everything that's on the phone and the apps is it's out there in the air somewhere, but you can't touch it.
Yeah. Woozy, wazzy, yeah, fugazi.
It's so funny, the sentiment around all-time highs in crypto though, because when it's going up, so when Bitcoin hit like 69, everyone was like, it's going to 100. Whereas people like yourself are like, okay, well, it can go to 100, but if I take some just now, I've won. And I'll just buy back in when it goes back down, because it always does. It's just how the asset works. Yeah. And the sentiment right now, when it's like at the time of recording, like 19 or 20K, nobody wants to buy it. But I'm like, oh well, I can buy some just now because I know it's been at 69 before. It's probably going to go to 100. It's probably going to go to 250 beyond that. If I just buy just now and then sell out at the tops, I'm going to be much happier.
Simple. Yeah, exactly. It's the people that just panic sell, the people that worry, and that view it as a gambling approach is because that's, well, if you're doing it short term, you're doing day trading, that's just gambling. That is just saying, I think Manchester United are going to play well this weekend, so here's $1,000. You know, if you're doing it like that, definitely. But if you're looking at just the history and you're extremely long term, I think it's a safer approach.
Yeah, agreed. You mentioned Marbella was the place that you chose in terms of setting your roots down. Why was that?
So I was living in London at the time in 2020, and for the year that I was in it, for an extremely lockdown year, I actually had a pretty good year. I love London. I think it's cool. But rent is obviously the most expensive in Europe. But you want to know, right? Here's the top 3 most expensive rents in Europe. Okay, London, Paris, Dublin. Right, they're the 3 most expensive cities to live in rent. I think Dublin's actually officially recently number 1, the most all-round expensive city, which is insane. London, you get the hub of Europe. Okay, Paris, amazing historical city. Dublin, I love you, but you know, it shouldn't be the 3rd most expensive city to live in. It's crazy. And so I said, where else in Europe are the gyms open right now? Because my lease ended in London. I said, where else in Europe is sunny? Gym's open, has direct flights, is easy to get to, direct flights to Dublin and London, and do I know? And I actually used to work in a bar down in the port when I was like 19, okay? Not many people know that. It was like a nightclub bar, and there's a handout flyers on the street and everything. And so I always know a lot of people here, like a lot of people that worked here, still work here, just in different jobs and stuff. And there's so much Irish people here, as you can imagine, if you've ever been to Marbella. There's so much people from the UK too. And so I came out, I said I'd do a month here. And so I came out, all the gyms and cafes were open. Nightclubs were closed because there was still some restrictions. And I had well, first of all, the rent was extremely cheap at the time. It's still pretty good to live here. You know, you'll get a really nice place for $2,000 a month. But I came out and the gyms are the best. Like there's 4 or 5 mega gyms, and I have 5 gym memberships, and I go around to each of them. So I'm just never lose interest. I'm just always recording content in a different background.
It's a tax deductible, Rob. You can declare it against the business.
If anything it's my gym memberships, okay? And so I came out and I had a really productive month because all the nightclubs are closed. I didn't go out. I got in my best shape. I was doing daily swims, a beautiful beach here, of course, and I was just feeling so good. I was productive, training hard in the sun, swim. The food here is amazing as well. Even the grocery stores like Mercadona is so fresh, really good price. And I was like, whoa, I'm actually making more money here because I'm being more productive and I'm spending less on rent. And I fell in love with the place. And then my family came out. They were here in 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And you know, my family have always been in Marbella, and we just fell in love with it. I started looking at properties here, and I found this old that was owned by an 80-year-old Dutch couple. And they said, I haven't done the price reveal yet. I will do it on my YouTube series when the series is over, but I got it at an extremely good price. I bought it the day it went on the market because there was so many other people that wanted to buy this, but I knew the CEO of the property company that was selling it. So I said, and I knew all the staff as well. So I said, please hold on to this for me. I'll give you a deposit right now. And so I did it. They gave it to me. Spent most of this year renovating it, and the transformation is insane. Anyone listening, you can check out my YouTube channel or Villa Lipsett on Instagram. And I got it valued there. And that's the best investment I've ever done. But I'm going to live in it for a while anyways, and maybe do some Airbnb and, you know, maybe one day sell it. But honestly, it's my dream pad. But yeah, that's why I'm Marbella. Funnily enough, the gyms and the overall lifestyle.
Yeah, I think it seems like a really good choice because, again, the time zone's only like an hour difference as well. So it's not as if it disrupts your business interests, and it doesn't radically change when you're dealing with people in the US either, which is obviously important given your relationships.
Yeah, and it's an hour ahead of Ireland and the UK. So I actually love that little hour extra I get in the morning. You know, I'll start, you know, I usually wake up at maybe like 6 or 7, and I'll start like replying to emails and stuff. So like by that 9 a.m., I've gotten all my replies done. So that extra hour is actually quite nice. Yeah, it's good.
For sure. Your photo with Conor McGregor in Marbella went semi-viral.
Yeah,
how well do you know? How well do you know Conor? Did you get to spend any time together?
Yeah. So that day, you know, I hate saying he knows who I am. It sounds so weird, but he is one of the biggest megastars in the world. But like I said earlier on the podcast, Dublin's the smallest place ever, right? Everyone knows everyone. So yeah, it was quite funny. And yeah, you know, it was a real bro moment. You know, that video, we ran up to each other in the street. We were like, hey, you know, and it was just funny. It was a good moment. And I think people from Dublin, like, just thought it was funny seeing the two of us, like two characters together in that photo. But yeah, I went with his crew to the Mayweather fight many years ago in Vegas. I know a lot of his friends, you know, we frequent the gyms around Dublin. I've trained in SPG a good few times. So yeah, and I'm dying to try at the Black Forge. So, you know, it's meant to be really good, his restaurant in Dublin. So next time I go back, might bump into him again. But yeah, sick guy, legend, full of energy. And, you know, just as you can see in the video and all, super friendly.
Yeah, I think when you have two guys that are exposed to the limelight the way that you two are, albeit Conor on just in the stratosphere, and you on a huge level, Rob, but you probably like it's a kind of real recognizes real in terms of like we both have come from like Dublin, we both made it onto the world stage. This is cool, man. Like you will have so many shared experiences or shared thoughts around like privacy, like lifestyle, like the kind of things you do because you're both into health and fitness as well. So there's probably a lot of synergy there from that level too.
Yeah, exactly. It was like when we did the shake, it was like, you know, the Arnie Stallone one or whatever the movie is.
You love a meme, Rob. You love a meme.
Yeah, I'm so glad that the connection landed. Imagine we ran up and we missed. It would have been terrible, but the connection landed well. But yeah, no, I love Conor. Like, I think just from what he's came from is the real deal. Like, he has really just made it to the highest of heights. From honestly the smallest part of Dublin ever. You wouldn't believe it. But yeah, huge respect for Conor.
Yeah, that's class, Rob. One of the final questions I had in my head is, when are you starting a podcast? You absolutely love them. You do lots of interviews, you come across fantastic, you've got the energy for it. Is that in the pipeline? Can we see that?
100%. And you know what I was actually just thinking here? Okay, so this is my first time using the website that we're doing it. And this is probably the easiest to do, you know, like whatever setup this is. And so what is your current setup? I know you have the Shure Joe Rogan mic. You sound very clear. What else do you need? Is it just that and laptop?
Yeah, I've got a separate webcam to improve the quality as well. I've got a kind of ring light because Glasgow is grim today, Rob.
Oh yeah, I got mine here. Just got the light here. It should be okay.
Yeah, the Shure mic, as you said, obviously the adapter for the Mac, and that's pretty much it. This StreamYard is amazing. Like, you've been interviewed by my friend Darren Lee. He's Irish, has
Yes,
kickoff
yeah,
sessions. Darren does like podcast consultancy, and when I went on his show, he was like, "Your setup could improve so much," and he gave me a few different tips. And I moved on to StreamYard. The quality is excellent, as you can hear from the audio, and it maintains the video. Whereas when I was on Zoom, the quality would drop off a little bit. It's not as good.
No, seriously, I always hated that. Like, usually I think we all prefer doing them in person, but this has been the most like quick, no latency, really, really quick feedback.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I love doing them in person as well, Rob, but equally, like, this will be maybe like episode 153 or something like that. So to accumulate those and have interesting guests from all across the world, the technology has got to be there. So yeah, it's been fantastic. And equally, the video quality for pulling clips for socials, because we have to play the game in terms of TikTok and Reels and stuff to get people to listen to the longer form, because the value that's been in this conversation is really high. But if I don't share a 15, 30, 45-second clip of you dropping bombs, Rob, it's not going to do, it's not going to reach as many ears. And that's just the unfortunate reality of the attention economy that we live in.
Yeah, and I love that. I've already like kind of thought of a few clips that I want to post from this, but I really, really wanted to. And I always kind of thought, like, have you seen Matt's tuning setup? Like, he literally built a studio in Texas. I was like, oh, to do it, I got to do that. And then, like, how do I fly guests to Marbella? Or do I maybe get a studio in Ireland? Because I get a few guests there, but still not, I'd run out of guests pretty quickly. So I'm like, maybe online is the best way to do it and just fire away at it. Like, I think oftentimes we think that we need like the perfect studio to do it, to blow a channel up, and it needs to be all in person because that's what Joe Rogan did. But then, like, people just really want to hear dialect. People really just want to hear conversation. Like, someone who does it really well is Chris Williamson. His is all just, I was actually on Modern Wisdom. I think we're out in Dubai. We did that in person. But so there's an episode in there with me if anyone wants to go listen deep down. But he does his all now just on webcam.
Chris was a tremendous help for me. He was actually my launch episode for the podcast, and he like you're saying, this was during the start of the pandemic, and Chris was like, just accumulate and build your skill online. If you want to interview people in Scotland that are like can commute to the studio that you want to use, great, but you won't get to interview Rob Lipsett because you're based in Glasgow. You won't get to interview whoever else I've had on that's like based across the world, like Near Reality, author of Indistractable. He's based in Silicon Valley. I'm not getting him to take a flight to Glasgow to speak to me when I've not got the world's biggest podcast at that stage. That's just not how it works. So,
Glasgow, you get a good battered Mars bar in Glasgow, though, to be fair.
I'm sure we've got some other attributes, but yeah, you're right. But yeah, just recognizing that you can have fantastic conversations as long as the quality is good for the listeners, then that's all that matters. And I would never ever wanted to have a podcast in a goldfish bowl. Like, that's fine. You have people that specialize in like maybe only interview people within their like geographic area, and that's cool because you can double down. But my podcast has been played in like 100 countries, and you're like, how would you do that if you only interviewed people from within like a 50-mile radius of your house?
The flights would total, like, that would cost a lot. Imagine if you're flying business to all these, it would be economy at the very most. But yeah, it would just be impossible, really. Like, think of the amount of time that would take too. And it's so cool how, like, nowadays how connected the world is. Like, you've built like this epic podcast, you're getting people from Silicon Valley on, and you're doing it all just, from Glasgow, where your hometown, I presume. So that's amazing. Like, that's crazy. And so what would be, so I do really want to start one, because these are actually, when I love doing podcasts. Like, I think long form conversation is the most beneficial. I think it's when I get to be myself the most as well. And I think, it kind of makes me feel good for the day. Like, when I do one in the morning, I feel like I've just had a good chat with a mate for an hour, and I always have a good day. So I always do my podcast in the morning. I think I said that to you when I was arranging time, always in the morning, and I do them. And then I always just have a great day. So what would be like your advice, like for me, for setting one up? Like, what would be the first things that you would do? Would you worry about an intro? What equipment? Like, where would you start?
You probably know this, Rob, from doing your YouTube channel. You're just fishing for a little bit of inside info. But yeah, let's do it. So I obviously have the equipment. Like, this is a funny story. I I went on 5 or 6 as a guest at the start of 2019, loved it, was sharing it with my audience on Instagram, and they were like, "Oh, Colin, you come across really well. I enjoy that." And I was like, I need to get my own podcast. I need to do this. I bought the mic. I didn't buy this one. I bought the Snowball that you're working with.
Yeah, I need to upgrade. Yeah.
It's coming soon. It's coming soon. I bought the Snowball. I bought a new MacBook. My one from uni was running so slow by that point. And it took me until, so that was maybe July 2019. And it took me until March 2020 to record the first episode because I just procrastinated on it, Rob. And I hate procrastination. Yeah. It's because I knew the undertaking's so big. I never wanted to start something and not continue. So I've released like 150 odd within 2.5 years. So that's more than one a week. So that's what I wanted to commit to, because I know the podcasts I listen to, they don't go on like 3-month breaks from uploading because something come up, and they don't do series. They upload, like Chris, he uploads 2 or 3 times a week, every week, forever. Yeah. And so the undertaking was absolutely massive. So for me, it was the equipment. The software that I used to upload from is Anchor. StreamYard or Zoom is what I was recording on. Your network's going to be incredible, but I wrote down the first 10 people that I thought I would want to have conversations with that fitted the kind of niche of like self-development, business, fitness, mindset, mental health, investing, whatever I wanted to cover. Because that was my kind of like ideal listener. Like I was creating content for what I would like to learn about too, because it's
you like cool. Build your avatar, your ideal listener.
Yeah, exactly that. So that was like that was the start point, and then from there it was just being relentlessly consistent. So for me, I recorded 6 before I released the first one, and Chris was number 1 because I knew somebody with his clout, and he was up for it, and he's a very, very good guy, and probably the antithesis of somebody that you would want to like learn from in terms of self-development. So he was kind of perfect for kicking off. So yeah, get the equipment, Rob, record 5 or 6, and then just hit go, because your network will be incredible. You'll have conversations with people that maybe people haven't heard on a podcast before as well. Like the less interviews somebody's done, sometimes the better, or the more interviews somebody's done, the more polished they are. Like I'd be excited to see it. I genuinely think you have all the skills and the network to smash it.
You've just got me feeling ready to smash the day. I'm paired up. I'm actually going to do it. This is the motivation that I needed. And like just seeing how well this conversation went, super clean. But yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get started, and you can hold me accountable now. And then, but I also think a quick one, actually, you said, but that I liked, I think it was good that you procrastinated on it a little bit until you were prepared to have that first 10 things. Because one thing I see with podcasts, and I hate it, and it's very common, that they'll record one episode and that's it. they'll record like 1, maybe 3, and then that's it. Like, I think it's good to have a bank of almost 10.
The drop-off's huge, Rob. The drop-off's huge. Basically, 80% don't make it past 8 episodes, I think it is. That's and then it drops off again at 21. And then after that, you've kind of become in the top percentile by continuing to keep going and continuing to groove. Because your listeners, they have a habit. So I upload every Sunday, and occasionally I upload on a Wednesday. So people listen to me on their way to work on a Monday, or they listen to me on their walk on a Sunday afternoon. Like you become part of the routine. And if you don't maintain that contract, then you lose the kind of connection with the listener, in my opinion.
Yeah. And you know what? That's a really good metaphor for life right there. Is just showing up, you get into the top percent from just showing up like that. And you can do that in anything. You can do that in gym, business, whatever. From just showing up consistently, that's how you get into the top percent of any field. That's awesome.
What a beautiful way for us to wrap up, Rob. If people aren't acquainted with you before and they want to continue the conversation, where should they head towards?
Yes, so search on YouTube, Rob Lipsett. You got roblipsett.com. On Instagram, Rob Lipsett across the board. Twitter, the same. I'm very lucky. I've got my username on all of them. So that's where you'll find me. And again, I would love to connect to anyone listening here. Really appreciate having me on.
That'll be linked in the show notes, guys. Thank you very much for joining me. And I'll be back to speak to you all again very, very soon.